Alright, guys, here I am again. I am still waiting for my car tires to be done. And isn't this area actually really nice? I think this is one of the nicest areas near my apartment. And obviously, where I live is not as nice as this, and also not as safe as this here. Um, but yeah, it is really nice, and I think these houses they cost at least like $1,500,000. But these houses are really, really nice, right? Seems clean and the streets are clean and there's not much traffic, right? It just seems really, really peaceful. And when I was young and I was going to college at Berkeley, I somehow just had this delusional belief that I for sure will be able to afford a house as nice as these ones, if not nicer, right? Because I just thought to myself that, oh, that one is nice too. The house is nice. Um, I just thought that, yeah, I'll just get into a medical school for sure, and I'll be a doctor. There won't be no problem, right? Affording these type of houses won't be no problem. So, yeah, but now considering this economy and also how millennials and Gen Z are the very first generation in history, American history, that's actually doing worse off than their parents, right? Um, buying these type of houses or buying any house is pretty out of reach. And the other day, my dad actually told me how like one of our residents at my apartment is moving out, and they just bought a house in this area. I forget the name of the city, but it's kind of like um, suburban area, or not even suburban. I feel like it's almost rural area because there's not much population there, right? So she bought a house there. Also, that area is like about 2 hours away from my city, and they bought a house there for 500K. And my dad was like, "Hey, Kenji, like we could go there and buy a house. We could afford a house if we move out there." I'm like, "Dad, I have a job right here. How can I how can I move out there? It's way too far, right?" And he was like, "Well, some days, you don't have to report to the office, right? You just have to just you don't have to drive every day. So actually it won't be that bad." And I'm like, "Dad, it's 2 hours away and probably 2.5 hours away from my work. And that's considering without traffic, right?" So back and forth, in order for me to commute from there to my work, it will take 5 hours at least. What makes you think it would be worth it to move out there? And he was like, "Oh, 5 hours is like nothing. That's nothing." I'm like, what are you talking about? That is that is not nothing. 5 hours of drive is not nothing. It's how long it takes. Almost it's how long it takes for me to drive from SoCal to NorCal, San Francisco, right? I'm like, also I hate driving. I hate just sitting in my car and just driving mindlessly. I mean, sometimes it's nice because it gives me time to think, um, and have some time to have some time for reflection and introspection. But usually, I just don't like driving. I don't like getting stuck in traffic, especially. And my dad's like, no, it's nothing. It's just like 5 hours. And again, you don't have to drive every day, so it shouldn't be a big deal, you know? Like, why don't we buy a house over there? I'm like, Dad, like, stop it. I'm not gonna buy a house over there. First of all, I don't even have enough money for a down payment, right? Even if you might help out, still, that's your money and that's your retirement money. I don't want to get help. And I don't know, my dad sometimes just he's so insensible. You know what I mean? He he's an interesting figure. He prides himself with this idea that he's like so smart and intelligent, and he thinks through things, and you know he's just really just meticulous person when it comes to making decisions, right? He really believes that he makes great decisions, like great big decisions, but I don't know. I don't know if I can say that about him because based off of like all these big decisions he has made in his life, he always made a bad choice. You know what I mean? I don't want to go into detail about like what kind of bad big life decisions he has made, but I can tell you, I can assure you that if I had shared this with other people, with others, they would agree with me. Like he's really made some bad life decisions. But anyways, yeah. I mean, what good is it to own a house if like that would mean me sacrificing almost I don't know 1/3 of my awake day on just driving to work and driving back from work. Right? It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, sure, I would have a house to my name, but again, what good is it? You know, my life goal is not just to own a house per se. If that would mean like sacrificing my other like my time and energy of my day, right? I'd rather just rent a room or rent an apartment close to my work so I can have more time for myself to relax and just do other things in my life that would bring me more joy and happiness and more meaning, right? But I don't know, my dad somehow believes that I it's just still worth it to just go out there and buy a house because one of his neighbors did it. Isn't that interesting? It's really interesting. And oh, I also remember when this happened like many years ago, actually about like 10, I think 10 years ago. He it was during the time I dropped out of school and I was just barely scraping by with this measly um, logistics job. I wasn't even making that much. I think I was making like $40,000 a year. So after tax, I was taking home what, like 30,000, 28,000. I wasn't making that much, right? I was making like $2,500 a month. But anyways, my my dad at that time somehow he wanted to buy a house, but then he wasn't he didn't have enough income to apply, I guess, for a mortgage. So he wanted to like put my name on it too. So he reaches out to like one of his what is it real estate agents, to inquire about a available house on the market, and he makes me meet up with this agent when I'm like, I had nothing about all these process like buying a house, and I didn't even know at the time that if I wanted a house. And also I felt like I didn't even have enough income to buy a house to begin with, right? I wasn't ready, but he kept pushing me to meet with this agent when I was trying to tell him that I'm not interested in buying a house. But anyways, I end up meeting up with this agent, and he takes my information like my social security number and all that, and he runs a credit. Uh, and he, I guess he gets back to my dad saying like I could technically buy a house if I take out like this much mortgage, and that would mean like pretty much when I looked at the numbers, all I remember is that, oh shit, that's a lot of number. If I become a house per, yes, I could do it, but would I want to do it though, right? And my dad was like, he just kept pushing it, right? Trying to push me like into buying it. I'm like, Dad, no, I don't want to buy a house right now. I'm not ready. I don't even have a down payment. He was like, oh, I can help you out. I'm like, no, like that's not enough. That wasn't even enough. He was like trying to put down like $20,000, I believe. Dude, for a freaking like $500,000 house, I'm like, Dad, that's not enough. Just run the numbers. We're gonna be house poor. And do you really want that? Like, man, had I gone with that choice, had I gone with that, I mean, I guess considering the current housing market, how much of a bubble it is, how inflated it is, maybe I might have like come out ahead if I was able to keep the house until now. But definitely, I think that would have been a financial disaster, because that would mean that I wouldn't be able to go back to school. That would mean that I wouldn't have been able to um, get a better paying job, or like not get a better paying. Oh yeah, I wouldn't have been able to get a paying job because I wouldn't have been able to go back to school, right? I wouldn't have been able to even get my bachelor's degree, right? So I would be really, really struggling, just barely trying to keep up with mortgage. And when you buy a house, mortgage is not everything, right? That's why they say, that's what they say about buying a house. Mortgage is the minimum amount of money you will pay when you buy a house. When you rent is the maximum amount you will pay, for to rent. But when you buy a house, there's more than mortgage, right? There's maintenance costs. If your roof leaks, if your heater breaks, if your AC breaks, all kinds of things. All kinds of these things. You have to mow your lawn, and there's just so much more stuff involved when you buy a house. Um, anyways, yeah. So I'm still glad I did not go with that with my dad's decision to buy a house at the time. Well, anyways, enough of my rant. But man, RG's house is nice, right? I wish I had these houses. I wish I could afford these type of houses. Man, these houses are nice. Well, maybe next life, right? I mean, it's a given. It's guaranteed that I'll never be able to afford a house, at least in California. If I moved out of this state, this declining state, this overpriced state, then I might have a chance, right? So maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, I might be able to save up enough to have enough for a down payment. But then, do I really actually want a house still? Do I actually want to be bound to a mortgage? You know what I mean? Okay, there comes my dad. I was waiting for my dad to pick me up. Okay, anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.